What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Spark to Fire. Today, I'm here with Aaron McKeever, founder of several restaurants, entrepreneur, real estate. He's done a lot of different things, and I've had an opportunity to go to Dallas with this guy and just learn a ton about him. And I think he's got some really interesting stories, especially the one from your childhood that I like got to hear after several cocktails in some fancy restaurant in Dallas, I think is where we were at. But
Correct.
So I definitely want to start off with that, especially, yeah. I just want to hear a little bit about where you grew up and what you were like as a kid.
Yeah, sure. I always say when I explain my mom was just a complete badass. You know,
Okay.
I was probably terrified of her until I was a teenager. And I mean, as a single mom, you know, I understand as many of my friends are single parents. So she kept me in line, and basically at 4 or 5, I was involved in sports and, you know, became that competitive person just over years. And, you know, with that said, with her being that strict and that much of a badass, you know, it kept me in line.
Yeah.
But the story I had shared with you, I was 12, 13, and
Where were
South,
you at? Where were
South
you at?
Roads Mall,
Okay, so Omaha.
crossing over into Bellevue, but we were at Foot Locker, and Jordans just came out, and they were $60. I mean, I know it like it happened yesterday. So try them on, walked around the store, felt like, you know, I was a king, 12, 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Get to the counter, she puts down $30. And literally I was like, what just happened? And she's walking out the store. She's like, well, if you want those Jordans, get a job. So I had a newspaper route 60 days later, and 2 months after saving, I had my Jordans. And then obviously I shared the other story with you about me stealing my mom's car.
Okay, well, we can't just brush over that. so she just like walked away, and so she just left. the
Yeah,
money
she
there
was
and
like, you know what? Your budget is $30, and
luck.
if you want the Jordans that bad, get a job.
So that's now 3 episodes in a row, I think, of people that we've interviewed on Spark to Fire. The people that are listening chronologically on this are really going to enjoy this because everyone's entrepreneurial streak, from what I've seen, are like the second that they realized that they had to go get it by themselves in the
Right.
world. It all started with some shit they wanted as kids. So like sneakers, a car, a bike, a motorcycle.
Correct.
I think I can't remember. A baseball glove, I think, was our last one.
Right.
So yours was a pair of Jordans.
So needless to say, that rubbed my ass the wrong way.
You're like, okay, it's time to get some money and never
Right,
have this problem
right.
again.
So leading into the next story,
Yeah.
my newspaper route. So I lived off of 15th and Dorcas in South Omaha. So if anybody knows South Omaha, 15th is on the west side, and then 13th Street goes down. And I mean, when I say it goes down, it would be an amazing sledding hill if you didn't have traffic, you know, driving by. So my newspaper route was 10th Street, 11th Street, and 12th Street. So when it snowed or the weather was bad, I mean, a shopping cart with 4 inches of snow and 150 papers, you're not getting around very well. So my mom bartended, and the first snowfall coming into that winter, I woke her up at 5:30 in the morning and was like, I need to take these papers out right now. And she's like, she was fired up. She was like, well, you better figure it out. You better figure this out next time. So long story short, she took me that first time, and I didn't forget it. So on the second snowfall, I thought about going into her bedroom.
Not gonna happen.
And I had driven cars before. My who I consider my dad now worked at the impound lot. So at 10 or 11, I was driving a 3-speed Honda Civic, for practice in South Omaha. So, so I walked into her room and I was like, forget this. I know how to drive her car.
I got it.
So went up to Vinton Street, went to 10th Street, and down I went. And when I got home, shoveled the walk, shoveled the drive, and she never knew. It snowed maybe 2 weeks later, and, I went into her room, woke her up, and I was like, hey, Mom, are you going to take me on the route, And she's like, I told you. You need to figure this out. And I said, well, I took the car 2 weeks ago, and it's fine. And she's like, you what? Bleep, bleep. And from that day forward, I was taking that car on Tuesdays and Thursdays and whenever it was available.
So
she was cool about it, but
cool
she
about
was
it.
like, you wrecked that car.
Life's over.
Yeah. Life as we know it is over.
We got his buddy Robin here, who is a nationally renowned speaker, which is really cool. So if you see us looking off camera or anything, that's what's going on. But that's wild. That is crazy. The fact that she's just like, yeah. I mean, I get it though. You're bartending. You get off at 2, 3 a.m., probably 3, 4 a.m.
Right.
some nights, and you have 1 hour sleep, and your kid wakes you up at 5 to go take the papers.
Yeah, not
No,
good.
Not gonna happen.
Well, she created the issue to begin with. If you had just bought the $60 Jordans, life would have been good.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have this badass story to tell today, or you wouldn't have this badass story to
Right.
tell today. So,
Right.
so today, let's fast forward just a little bit. So you're in high school, big into sports. I remember you talking about a little bit, and that became a big part of your life. So what happens after high school?
Yeah, played baseball in college for a short stint. Injuries with shoulder, elbow, and then ended up moving back to Omaha.
Where'd you play ball at?
I played at a junior college in Kansas, Fort Scott, and then I had an offer to play at Winthrop in South Carolina, and basically was leaving Fort Scott with an injury, and ended up finishing school at UNO, which was a good experience. All my friends, it gave me an opportunity to get away and at least see what life was like. And I was already independent as it was.
Yeah.
But to come back, definitely wasn't moving in with Mom. Found a couple of buddies, and we lived off 49th and Dodge, and we had the 49er and the Underwood and everything else to occupy our time,
Yeah.
other than just school. So, but no, I had a good experience finishing up at UNO, and no, it's a good school.
Yeah. So you leave UNO, and when you go get a job after that, or what happens?
Yeah,
next?
when I was coming back during the summers, while I was playing baseball in college, I worked at a rent-to-own store. So, it's people hard pressed, living paycheck to paycheck, much like, my mom as a single mom, and many people today. And, I learned that, you respect people at all levels, and people find hardships, every day.
Right.
And you don't judge people because of where they live or what they're driving or whatever. I mean, I can tell you, I didn't know, there was a higher class than the middle class. We stayed around South Omaha and, the field club area, and I didn't know any better. I get to Norse Junior High, and I said, wow, an Escalade, or whatever.
What is that?
Ford Expedition or Ford Explorer. Yeah, I had no idea. And so I think growing up in South Omaha, it just taught me that, I'm not better than anybody else. Do I desire things maybe more than other people at times? Absolutely. But I have that, my mom, instilled that work ethic in me, and that's what has drove me, to some of my success.
And so you leave, you're at the rent-to-own business, and I think that kind of like parlays into your next thing, which is when you kind of got into cars a little bit, right?
Correct. Out of college, I worked for Norwest, then it turned into Wells Fargo, just not a behind-the-desk person. And with that said, a friend basically had a cutout of, a management position at a buy here, pay here car dealership. He's like, I went in for the interview. They want a college degree. Here you go. And it was probably one of the best days of my life. Followed up on it. The dude wanted to hire me that day because of my experience, probably growing up in South Omaha and just relating to all kinds of people.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting into the buy here, pay here business, and for 2 years worked that. Really close friend got into that with me, and I became a district manager with that company within 6 or 7 months. Promoted him to a manager, and then we were off and running. And it was like, hey, we're going to start our own. And within 2 years, we had started Cars Today, which is down Radial Highway between Sonny Gerber and Wolfson.
Okay, so still there today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So with that said, my family didn't give me a penny.
Right.
And they thought I was crazy for going into a market where, Sonny Gerber had been there since 1955 and Wolfson had been there just as long.
What did you do different than those guys, though?
Great question. And that was the big differentiator, is that, listen, they come out smoking a cigarette, sandals,
Not giving a shit. Like
Yeah.
they're coming out.
the
there
owner's
just
random dogs are running around the lot.
running around the parking lot.
Yeah, and it's the details. It's
Right.
all in the details.
And walk. Sorry.
Yeah.
So not everybody might understand that to the fullest extent. I want to walk people through. So what exactly was your day-to-day life like when you were a district manager first, before you started yours?
Sure.
And then so they can get an idea. So like, I want to hear some stories of like what are some of these cigarette in the mouth, dogs running around the parking lot stories before we go into like what you made better.
It's a different world, but I learned so many facets of the business. I mean, in a buy here, pay here world, you have to be good at collections first.
Right.
So
These
sales.
are cars for how much money roughly?
Right. 3,000 to 8,000.
Right.
And, but this customer wants as much respect as somebody going in and buying an Audi at $80,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a differentiator right there too. I mean, if you're disrespecting these customers, I mean, that's kind of what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And if people like you, they pay you.
Bingo.
And that, I mean, it's pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. And I think a lot of times customers felt, disrespected, and we wanted to know their kids' names. We wanted to know their mom and dad's names. And, it paid off.
Yeah. So you just took time to get to know them.
Absolutely.
Good learning lesson for anybody that's, building a company or like maybe you're in a company right now is, if the company that you're in, you're collecting a paycheck right now and they have, bad customer service, you don't feel like they really care about their customers at all.
Right.
It's a massive vulnerability.
Well,
Like,
I think,
I
too,
think
customer service has been lost for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Now everything's automated.
Mm-hmm.
If you're calling in with an issue because you lost a job or you got evicted or a family member passed away and you're living paycheck to paycheck as it is and you have to go out of town, you want somebody there that understands. And I think we did an amazing job with it. And I mean, we had customers that had 10 family members have vehicles with us. And it just said a lot about us caring. Now, there's people that take advantage of those situations, but it's also being in the business and kind of understanding and noticing that.
So you start your own Cars Today.
Man.
What was your first day like when you decided to go create Cars Today? Your very first of all, how old were you?
I was 30.
Okay, so you have 6-7 years of experience under your belt before you started your own.
Well, 2 years in the buy here, pay here business, but 6 years removed out of college.
6 years removed out of college. Okay,
Right.
so you spent some time at that rent to own then, or did you have just kind of
No, that
bounce
was
around
just
jobs?
I was at the rent to own
Yeah.
basically through college, just working.
Mm-hmm.
But that customer is similar to the buy here, pay here
Sure.
customer.
Yeah. So you spent a lot of time just getting to know that customer, and
Correct.
that's a big part of it. I think you spent your
Right.
your 10,000 hours getting to know that customer really well, and getting to understand what their needs were. So you start your own. You're 30. You're like, all right, we're gonna take over this car world.
I mean,
buy here.
It was
Hey.
liberating, our last day, and I'll say Jason's name. I won't say his last name, but
Right.
it was our last day at the last car dealership we had worked at,
Mm-hmm.
and we fax over at 9 o'clock at the same time. I'm his boss, and I oversee 10 locations of 40, and my boss calls me within 30 seconds. What's going on? He had no idea. And I said, well, we're moving on to other opportunities. And then they find out, 10 days into us having our own. And, it felt amazing, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. But for 3 years of Jason and I opening ours, we paid ourselves the same. My mom would ask me weekly, what's it like to work for yourself? I said, nobody's telling me what to do.
What did she expect to get out of you with that question?
I think she just thought that, I was making so much more,
Oh,
and it was really, we were funneling something that was creating something bigger on a daily basis. We didn't need to be paid, X amount. I was already doing that with 10 stores. I mean, I was overpaid as 30 years, as a 30-year-old being a district manager.
right.
But for 3 or 4 years, working 70 hours a week, going to the auction, buying cars, selling them, detailing them, having mechanics fix them. It was, it was a grind, but there was no option to fail.
Right. How many cars would you guys sell a day to make your money that you needed to make?
Our first month, so really it's a compounding effect. Our first month, we sold 16 cars.
Okay.
And really before any other unforeseen issues, I think the least amount we had ever sold was like 14.
Okay. Gotcha. So you guys
But
always stayed
I
with that.
made our sign, original sign out there, and painted Cars Today out there until we could get our official sign done.
Right.
And, that just showed that, wow, we can do this. And, car dealership averages over 30 units a month, and, it's going strong.
Did you just bang the phones to get sales, or what did you do?
In that area, the customer shop,
Okay, so
the
you were
buy
part
here,
of
pay
the
here
area.
lots. Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
And so were you right next to your old place? How close were you to that?
The old place for their location in Omaha, or one of the locations in Omaha, was about, I would say, 6, 7 blocks away.
Okay. Yeah. So they're close
Yeah.
enough to where they felt it for sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So you're getting started, you're growing this, and how many locations do you have after just a few years of doing this?
Yeah, no, great question. We licensed our
Your model.
business out, and a very good childhood friend that lived 3 blocks away from me in South Omaha came to me, and he was in a different industry, and basically, I think I came to him first. He needed to feel comfortable to be able to do it, and then I said, you know what, take 3 or 4 or 5 days off of work, and you come and tell me if you can do it. So I took him to the auction, let him detail cars,
Yeah.
let him see collections, sales, everything. And he's been in the business for almost 15 years now.
Oh, okay. So still.
Our first accountant was our second license agreement.
That's kind of funny.
So-
They're like, the numbers
Yeah.
are what?
Right.
And they start understanding how they can make this work financially, and I'm guessing that becomes obvious, right?
Right. It's really a compounding effect, because let's just say loan terms are 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you're growing that compounding effect with those sales monthly.
Right.
So 25, 30 sales. Now you have 60 customers. Now you have 200, 300. Then it becomes maintaining when you have customers that pay off. You're trying to flip them into other cars to keep them as customers.
Got it.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's super interesting, especially when you're talking 16 cars a month.
Well, our
that's-
first month we sold 16, but it was like, okay, we knew what the break-even amount was
Yeah.
in terms of getting to 100, 125 customers. But is our average sales going to be 16? Or are they going to be 20, 25, 30? We always thought that 25 was a great number. And I mean, we've been, that Cars Today has been at 30 for years.
Huh. Really? So once it kind of gets to that point, you've built enough brand equity inside the community. You got enough customers out there coming back for the next car.
Correct.
30 seems to be maintained. And so, like, how does that compare to like a normal car dealership? Car dealership like that's in Lincoln right now. Like, say something like, one of the ones out on Whitehead Drive, like all those big car dealerships out there. What do you think those are doing?
So with Buy Here, Pay Here, you're basically self-funded.
Mm-hmm.
So we had no debt. I mean, I had one of my mentors in the banking business when I got out of college, really there for me and us, and was very fortunate, bought into the company and then gave us a loan. So that worked. A lot of other car dealerships have floor plans, so you pay a percent or ongoing percentage until you sell the car. We didn't have any of that.
Gotcha.
But to answer your question, car lots down here can be between 15 cars up to, 80 a month, 100 a month.
Gotcha.
I know some are very successful, but they do Buy Here, Pay Here, and, subprime,
Right.
and then, additional bank financing.
All the different financing options.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you stayed in that world for how many years?
I think 2 years prior to opening Cars Today, and then 16 years with Cars Today.
Wow.
So 18 years in the car business.
Interesting. And so you've gotten to love cars, obviously. You've got some cool cars of your own, I think, as well. I'm pretty sure you do still. Yeah. What's your favorite? Like, what's your favorite car right now that you either? What's your favorite one that you have, and then favorite one that you want to favorite one that you want to get?
Yeah, I've always been a car guy, obviously being in the business, but I have an Audi R8 that I've had, the 2017 model, so still have it, love it. In that price point, there's not much else that I would want.
Yeah.
But a dream car is like a 70 Cuda.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about badass things. That's a badass vehicle.
For sure. Yeah, I remember that was one of my favorite cars when I was looking at muscle cars. Like, my dad told me about some of his muscle cars that he had when he was a kid, and I remember looking at that Europe Cuda that had the vents on the back of the back glass, right? The Cudas had the vents on, or the visor. What did you call them? Vents, visors.
You got they had the little wing on the back also.
I meant your back window. Didn't they have like a window, like steel guard on the back window?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was. Remember the 70s had. I think 70s had that. Yeah, those are a mean looking car for sure.
And I mean, now the pricing on those, if you look at something being sold at Barrett Jackson, I mean, they're going north of 400,000 for one that's
right.
pristine.
Mint, yeah, $400,000. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not touching a 70 Cuda for a while.
For a while. Yeah, the story continues though. So you spent a lot of time in that world, and what made you want to take your next step into where you went next? And I assuming the restaurant world was the next step after that, right?
Correct. Still in the car business with great, a great business partner, great employees, and licensees. Then I would say, Willie Thiessen. We ended up buying Pitch from Willie, and Willie actually became a mentor over a few years, and just down to earth guy, and we had a lot of things in common in terms of liking cars and business stuff, and we became neighbors.
For our listeners who don't know, give a little brief synopsis on Willie.
Yeah, Willie started Godfather's in 1972.
Godfather's Pizza. So.
Yeah, became one of the best restaurant guys out there in a short amount of time. I mean, to have 1,000 franchisees in 10 years. And then I believe he sold Godfather's in 1983 or 84.
Wow.
for hundreds of millions.
Hundreds
I won't
of
say
millions.
the exact amount, but it was a big amount.
Yeah.
You know, and really we became friends, and he was, you know, very open about, hey, I want you to buy Pitch, and I basically said, of all the people you know in this industry, you know, why me?
Yeah.
And like I said, we had a lot of similarities, and I think he trusted me and just thought that maybe, you know, me and my team could take it to, you know, another level.
Yeah. So one location at that time, right?
One
One
in
location
Dundee.
in Dundee. So Pitch Coal Fire Pizza. If you guys haven't been to Pitch in Omaha, it is amazing, amazing pizza,
Right.
truffle fries. I mean, everything there that I've had is just phenomenal,
Right.
and I'm really craving it right now. But it's that's some great food. So he decided, I want you to buy this, and he actually, like, just because you guys gotten friendly over a little while. I think were you living close to each other or something like that?
Yeah, we lived close to each other in Midtown area of Omaha.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just became friends, you know, and I think instead of him taking it to the general market, he just said, let's work out a fair price. And at that point, I wanted to bring in, you know, people that I trusted, my car guys, and, you know, they had their shares. I had my majority shares, and we made it work. It was 4 months, I believe, of negotiations, but
Yeah.
we ended up getting it done, and you know, that was an awesome experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So 4 months of negotiations to get one location, and then you continue to expand in your restaurant side. So you go from a lot of years in the car industry, and you go just headfirst into one of the nicest restaurants in Omaha. What gives you the balls to do that? Like why
Yeah,
in the world
no,
were you confident that you
Another
could do that?
great question, and we've been asked that probably 100 times. It's like, you know, if you had a car wash that's making money, you understand balance sheets,
Yeah.
financials. So, you know, you relate it to a car dealership or a restaurant, and this makes money. This makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make more money or try and make it better? And we just saw an opportunity, and, you know, it was another great opportunity and a risk. But, you know, like I said, I'm only as good as the people around me, and I had great business partners, and, you know, we all helped take it to another level.
Yeah. And so taking it to another level meaning what? So you guys went from one location and just one location of Pitch to then you had other restaurants that kind of came up as well. So talk through that journey a little bit. And this is really cool for anybody that actually has eaten at these restaurants, because it's awesome, like sitting down with you and knowing that, like, you're the man, and you and your team and your business partners are the ones behind that great food.
And I just want to say, obviously, Willie put something amazing together.
Yeah.
We bought it, had an amazing group to take it to another level in terms of sales, I will say.
Yeah.
And then, you know, my favorite restaurant in Omaha prior to purchasing Pitch was Jams. And that was for many years. And the individual who owned that, obviously I knew for years. And, you know, I went to my business partners beforehand and said, hey, I think there's an opportunity that maybe we can buy Jams. And I think within 10 days, we had, you know, something worked out. And it was just reinvigorating, you know, some energy back into that. And what I mean by that is we remodeled it. We were shut down for, I think, 2 weeks, and gave it a facelift inside. And I mean, it worked for us, and sales were up because of it. And, you know, shortly after, I think we had that a couple of years, and then another popular restaurant guy in Omaha wanted it more than we did. So we ended up, you know, flipping Jams after a couple of years. But No.
I'm guessing you can't talk about those transaction values, but I'm gonna
No.
just go on a leap here and say that probably ended really well for you. That had to be a good exchange, though. Obviously, that worked, right?
Right.
And so you had some great momentum. And is it when you kind of like look forward now, is that something that you want to get back into in the future and get heavier into the restaurant space someday, or is it something that you want to go deeper into another industry? And then obviously we'll talk about the next thing right after that.
Well, I will say that with Pitch, we opened a second location in 2015, and another great experience. We went to Denver to look at rooftops. Our idea at the time was I don't think there was any rooftops in Omaha. I don't think Blatt downtown was open yet. Maybe it was, but this was obviously different, So we went and looked at opportunities and other concepts in Denver to get ideas for Pitch West. And we came back, and Allie Pointer was our architect, and they knocked it out of the park for us.
Yeah.
So great spot. Vince Lisi owned Berkshire Hathaway, and the cultures just blended very well together. So us working with him to try and make that, I will say, land agreement work was amazing.
So the land is Pitch is very close to Berkshire Hathaway's building.
Correct.
And they have a big, beautiful glass building. So you guys had to make sure you fit in with that, and you look like a premium option right next to them, right? They're not just going to let anybody park.
Well,
park
and
next
then it
to
was
them.
a good opportunity for business, real estate agents doing business over lunch, dinner, happy hour, whatever. It just was a no-brainer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because you think of all the things that are going on in there, and then you look around that area, and you're like, oh, you kind of got to get back on the freeway. You kind of like have to go. You really have to go somewhere to get to a decent restaurant, a decent bar. So.
Not to mention, the views out there with the rooftop looking west. So, it was a perfect spot. And,
for sure.
I mean, the timing was great. Vince was purchasing that land, and we were just able to work something out with him.
So what have you learned, and how many people, first of all, does it take to run a restaurant like Jams, or like run a restaurant like Pitch?
Well, I will use, let's just say, Pitch West. I mean, you've got part-time help, and let's just say there's 30, 35 part-time employees, and then you've probably got, 30 full-time. So when you look at that, that's an army of people that are pushing a lot of business through those four walls. And having amazing chefs and, just a solid team. I'll say with Pitch, there's not much turnover. I mean, the tips are very good. They're treated very well by, the owners. When I was there, and even now, the guys that were involved with me, they still own it. So, I mean, it's just a great fit, and it all works.
Yeah. Why? So when people think about getting into the restaurant industry, why do you think they do it? Do you think they do it because of money? Do you think they do it because of status? Why do people get into that business?
Good question. I think to be successful in that business first, you've got to have that fire and that passion. So a lot of people will have that. It's just having that business mind as well. And that's where I think people can sometimes go sideways, is that the passion to get into it is more than the business mind, and that's scary. It's when you have a business mind with the passion of, let's just say, a chef that wants to open a restaurant.
Yeah.
That's a great combination.
Yeah, because that person, they know their weaknesses, and then they find people to fit around them.
Correct.
Which is no different than any other business, really, because you have a visionary. I mean, if you're familiar with Traction, you have your visionary and you have your integrator. You have the person that's the head in the clouds that's constantly like looking for the next big thing, and then you have you're a person that's basically trying to hold everything together and making sure that those big ideas put forth by the visionary are actually put to the pavement and executed upon. And
Execution is everything.
yeah. And so I think a lot of times in that scenario, that's more of a group effort in a restaurant industry, because you literally have like a chef that's executing, the actual meals and everything. But then the business side has to get executed well upon as well.
Right.
So what happens? Has there ever been a time when they've had slow months, slow weeks? I mean, before COVID, like let's take COVID out of it as an equation, but like, what did you do when or did this happen at all? Like, have you ever had like a slow week, month, quarter in those big, like amazing restaurants?
Dundee per square foot, what that restaurant puts out, when I was involved, and even now, still extremely successful. It's just a solid team, and the consistency. I will say the consistency is always there.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them successful, is consistency. So to answer your question, I mean, falling off in sales, typically, the start of the year after the holidays, you would see a dip. But, with Pitch, they'll have private parties, that carry over from the holidays, because, maybe they want to wait and have their Christmas
Holidays are
party
crowded.
in January instead of, November or December.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, super consistent and extremely important in the restaurant business.
Yeah. So the consistency, just their consistency has been allowed them to not feel a lot of that, and then just being innovative during those slow times.
Right.
But ultimately, like, it's a winning horse. Like, you've got phenomenal jockey, you've got a phenomenal horse. Like, it's a winning combination, and
Right.
I see that, and I feel that when I go there. There's
Fine-tuned machine.
Yeah, it really is. And both Jams and Pitch have both felt that way as I've been there. So how, and like that's going to kind of parlay into like what we're going to talk about next, but you spent a lot of time in the restaurant industry after your time in cars, and now you're on to kind of the next big thing, big chapter of your life. And that's why we've got this Barrel and Vine hat that Aaron was so nice to bring. This is awesome. Definitely going to rock that. So talk to everybody about Barrel and Vine.
Sure. This is kind of my brainchild, I will say. I've always liked design, whether it's building a house or whatever, and my schooling helped me with a lot of that. So once again, going back to the details, whether it's branding, chef, interior design, exterior design, convenience, parking. I mean, there's so many things that go into trying to develop a brand and a concept. This has been kind of in my mind for the last 4 years, I will say, maybe a little longer. And it was encompassing, Barrel and Vine, which is Scotch, whiskey, wine, and then creating that level of higher experience. I say it's a elevated experience.
Yeah.
So then encompassing, the chef that goes with that, live music that goes with that, and having consistency with that live music. We don't just have live music, one night a week. We're doing local music Thursday nights, and then traveling bands, whether it's from Nashville or East Coast to West Coast, whatever, on Friday and Saturdays. But that has to be consistent. And booking those for 2021, July and after, I mean, we've already started.
Right.
So it's a lot of detail. And I have two incredible chefs that are going to run that kitchen, and they've got 60 years of experience.
60 years.
So having that gives me the comfort in knowing that, listen, the kitchen is taken care of.
Yeah.
Going from there, it's now the front of the house. It's putting together a staff that is extremely solid, and, I feel like we're going to be extremely busy, and it's putting all those details together, and then the training side, and then the customer service side. As I mentioned, extremely important. And then it's having those customers and that consistency all talk to one another.
Yeah. You've been working on this for how many years now? This is
4.
4 years.
Right.
So 4 years in the making, and when did you actually break ground on it?
We broke ground 9 weeks ago.
9 weeks ago. And so did COVID. COVID obviously had a lot to do with that.
Yes, I would
with
say
the
that we're
latency.
probably 6 months behind.
6
but
months.
Instead of opening in January, Barrel and Vine's opening next June.
Okay, so still 42 months instead of 48 months. I mean, you're still talking a lot of planning. So for anybody that's, excited about a project, excited about a deal, a business, a restaurant, anything like that, a lot of those things don't take as much time to plan, but something that's this big and this impactful and with this much opportunity attached to it, it is going to take a lot of time. And I think you're really a meticulous dude, and really a careful planner of how things come across. And you just have that eye to say, people are going to like this, people are not going to like this.
Well, I think, you develop things that you want to go to.
Yeah.
So
you wish this happened earlier in Omaha, is what you're saying.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it hasn't. It's just, after building a rooftop, with Pitch,
Yeah.
it was like, what can you push the needle on next? And it's like, let's put a swimming pool on the roof with a bar. Mean, it sounds amazing. I would go to that place.
Absolutely.
So, and being in West Omaha, it's where I live, and where can I go? And I hope that, with Barrel and Vine, everybody has that same sentiment in terms of, listen, people from Wahoo, Lincoln, Gretna, Ashland, this is for everybody.
Right.
And the swimming pool is open to everybody. Let's have a good time. And we've got live music. So it's like, I want you coming with your girlfriend, sitting on the roof, having a cocktail on a Saturday afternoon, going home, getting ready to go out for the night, and you come back and have dinner and watch a live show.
Yeah, that'll happen.
All right.
Mark my
Well,
words.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
You can hold me to that, no doubt. I got the
All
hat
right.
now too, so
You sure do.
Yeah, that's not going to be a problem at all. And so, what in the world? I mean, where do we even start? So, where do you start planning something this big? Financing, number one, right? Can you even finance the deal? That's probably the first thing, right?
Yeah, you asked some great questions. You want to get into the restaurant business?
Yeah, with you, yes, dude.
I went to one person, and he's my business partner in Barrel and Vine. And from day one, he was like, absolutely, let's do this. And in terms of capital, yeah. I knew he would be a business partner that could, coexist with me. So his relationships in the community are outstanding, and it's just a great fit. And we've had a great experience through 4 years of talking about it and then now executing. So extremely excited to work with him. I don't know, should I say his name?
That's up to you, dude.
Well, he's my accountant and one of my very close friends, Jim Perhall. Mm-hmm. So if anybody needs an outstanding accountant, Jimmy's it.
He sounds like he's pretty good at what he does if he's investing in something like
very
this.
Good,
and
very good.
That's a great point, is surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. I think you've done a good job of that from the very beginning. You've really focused on people as big assets in your life, especially since the day ones when you were talking about when you were a district manager and hiring your other managers of all these other locations.
Right.
I mean, that's always been something really important for you.
I think, with you working with the people you work with, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with, in terms of, running an operation like this, and extremely important. If somebody gets into this and thinks they can do everything, you've got a rude awakening.
Right. What do you mean by that? Think you can do everything? As in like an ego-based owner that's like, I got it all, and I'm just going to take it all on my shoulders.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's having that owner that thinks he can run the kitchen over a chef. It's the owner that thinks he can run the front of the house.
Yeah.
The difference with this, project that I have is it has many experiences. You can be on the patio with fire pits on the main floor. You can be inside watching a live music act. You can be on the roof in the swimming pool having a cocktail, and you can be on the roof in a bar stool watching a football game.
This doesn't even sound real. Like we're gonna have to get photos or concepts from you so we can put these in the short form videos because people, I don't know if they quite grasp how amazing this is gonna be. Like, I mean, obviously you're talking it up and it is gonna be really special, but just the buzz it's created by the time you're breaking ground. I had a friend that I met at a wedding, and she's like, yeah, there's this massive thing going on behind my apartment complex or behind our house. I have no idea what it is. Apparently it's going to have a rooftop pool, and there's going to be an outside place. They're going to have concerts. And she was telling me all about it. I'm like, is it called Barrel and Vine? She's like, yes. She lost it.
I love hearing that.
But yeah, and so that's people that are, you know, technically dealing with construction right now, but that's how excited people are about this, is even though it's, you know, it's construction, it's noise, it's loud, they're still like, man, I can't wait till that thing's up, because what's that going to do to their house value?
Correct.
Skyrocket.
Correct. And, you know, we've got the apartments going up around it. We named the apartments the Dalmore Apartments. Dalmore is high-end whiskey. We wanted something to tie in with Barrel and Vine. So if anybody wants to inquire about the apartments, it's the DalmoreApartments.com, and there's information on that website.
How do you spell that? Is it D-O-W?
The D-A-L-M-O-R-E.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
D-A-L-M-O-R-E.
Yep.
Yeah, DalmoreApartments.com. Cool. Yeah, that's gonna be, man, hopefully a second home in Omaha someday, just so I can get immediate access to the Barrel and Vine, because
I'm sure we can find a room for you.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. So you're gonna have, and are these actually attached? Explain this to our listeners a little bit, since they are listening right now.
We have a staircase and kind of elevator hallway there that connects but is separated between the apartments. So technically you could walk through the elevator on the second floor from Barrel and Vine and go into the apartments.
That's cool.
We don't want you leaving the apartments and then coming into Barrel and Vine, but on the second floor you could leave Barrel and Vine and go into the apartments.
Got it. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
That is cool. Very very unique. And what caused you to come up with this idea? Did you do a bunch of research before this, or, I mean, obviously you've been a lot of really cool places. I think you're pretty well traveled. And then talk about the wine side of this too. I know that you're really passionate about wines.
Sure. You know, with the wine side of it, I met Todd Anderson with Anderson Con Valley in Napa 10 years ago, and he wanted to do something with me and my restaurant group. You know, at that time it just didn't work out. There was already a relationship prior, so I said hopefully there'll be something down the road that we can do. And I reached out to him 2.5 years ago, and actually Robert came to Napa for the very first tasting. And
How was
Jim,
it?
Jim, the winemaker, I mean, he was like a scientist, you know.
Yeah.
And we were there for 2 days tasting, I mean, many options in terms of cabs, Sauvignon Blancs, and then you have to commit to, let's say, 500 cases. It's like, well, gosh, I hope this works. You know, it's
Right.
a lot of money.
500 cases.
It's a lot of
wine.
money. So
Yeah.
that's a little terrifying, but now it's been in the bottle for 14, 15 months, and the juice is amazing. I mean, I've had close friends that love their wine and had them try it, and so I'm extremely excited, and I like to drink it, so
Yeah.
I'm ready for, you know, the general public to be able to try it.
Yeah, I definitely need to get my hands on a couple bottles of that.
Sure.
Cab specifically. So so what year is that technically going to be?
That bottle is on the label 2017.
17.
And I'll get you a couple bottles and pictures and whatnot as
For
well.
sure. That'd be cool. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And so For anybody, are you going to be selling that only at Barrel and Vine? Are you going to
Correct.
have like an e-com store for them to buy that as well? Or?
You'll be able to buy, so we'll have a license to be able to buy through our website,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can just ship it to you.
Cool. Yeah. So you could do a wine club even. That'd be another
Yes.
opportunity as
Wine
well.
dinners.
Wine dinners. There you go. Yeah, that'll work. Good stuff. So is there anything else? You have a ton of experience in entrepreneurship and building big, successful businesses and very unique businesses, I would add. So what advice would you give to anybody that's looking to get started in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I would say teaming up with the right people, that are capitalized. It's like you hear so many stories out there that somebody teamed up with so-and-so and then things fell through because of money.
Mm-hmm.
That is the last thing you want to worry about. There's so many other details that are so important. And then when money becomes a major issue, I mean, can be extremely stressful. So I would say, just making sure that you're heavily capitalized, understanding the market. We knew that high-end apartments out here
They're gonna work.
would be basically a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then kind of coexisting with Barrel and Vine. There's a grocery store right next door. I mean, most are hard pressed to go to a grocery store in the old market.
Right.
There is one. It's smaller. It's still 2 or 3 blocks away. We've got a grocery store right next to the Dalmore Apartments and Barrel and Vine. Other lounges, bars, coffee shops within walking distance. So it's just a unique community. But, teaming up with the right people, extremely, extremely important. And then doing, your market analysis work in terms of knowing, location. I mean, going into a spot, it's unbelievable when I travel, or even in Omaha for that matter, and seeing a concept that was like, why did they pick this spot?
Right.
And you're chopping off a leg, just because rent is a little less expensive. Sure, it's less expensive,
But why?
Exactly.
Yeah. Why is it less expensive? Ask yourself
So,
that question.
Important questions like that, and then it's okay to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
People that have been in the industry or people who have more experience. And I think I've had some strong mentors that have helped me along the way. And like I said, you can't do it by yourself. Obviously, you build that experience, but still to this day, I ask strong restaurant guys that are in the business for help.
You do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so are these deep questions? Are these philosophical questions? Are these like situational questions where, hey, this should happen to me? What would you do?
All of the above.
All the above?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I think if you get into something thinking that you know everything, I mean, you don't.
Right.
And it's okay. It's okay. And I'll be the first to say that I don't.
I've rarely looked down upon somebody for just speaking as a business owner and somebody that has given advice to young entrepreneurs, even younger than I am, that are less experienced than I am. I've never once looked down on that person for asking me for help ever.
Right.
And
actually,
I don't
you
know.
probably respect them a little more because they put their ego in check.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. I can actually point to an exact example in a guy that, we hadn't worked with yet in any way as an editor. And then he was just asking a few questions, and if he listens to this, he'll know. But he was just like, what did you do to get clients? And what did you do to do this? And these really very great questions of what did you do on your follow-up process? And how many times did you call? And how many is too much? And what did you do on your contracts? And how did you make sure that they were secure? And all great questions that I figure out over 2-3 years, right? And he's asking those questions in year one. And we ended up hiring him for, a part-time thing,
Right.
Just a project. So, but I wouldn't have necessarily done that before, but he asked those questions and that's what led to it. So
Sure.
It's kind of a cool anecdote as to why you should do that. But what's a book that changed your life when you were getting started in entrepreneurship?
Are
you much of a reader?
I would say Good to Great.
Good to Great. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Very good book.
And as far as mentorship goes, I'll kind of wrap up with that. I know mentorship is really important to you, and that's been a really big thing in your life. If someone was going to go get a mentor, how would you recommend doing that? Because you've gotten access to great mentors. You've said that. So how would you recommend people do that? And Rob, if you have any advice on this, feel free to chime in as well. You have to come over here. You have to come over here to the mic.
Yeah. With people that I've had in my life and still have been in my life that have been strong mentors, a lot of it is trust, and just like I said, kind of putting my ego in check and saying, asking for help. It's okay to ask for help. So that and, people that are good in the community as well. My mentors, every single one of them are strong in the community, and, just putting yourself around good people. And, if somebody wants to get into the car dealership, it's kind of understanding, who's strong in the community and who can you ask for help. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that if somebody needs to reach out, reach out.
Yeah. And so when you were asking, you just go forward and ask and say, hey, look, I don't really know a lot about this, and you clearly do. I'd love to learn more about you. Or how did you actually establish that relationship with them?
So,
or is it more of
when
just
I
like
was
question
in
by
the
question?
banking business, I was around an individual, Steve. I won't say his last name, but Steve. Every morning I looked up to him in terms of, gosh, one day I want to be like him. Mm-hmm. Successful. He had money. He didn't show that he had money, but he had money, and it just gave me like direction in terms of, man, I need to find something. And I think when you have just that passion or desire to say, you know what, I don't have it yet, but I'm going to find something. And just like my buddy's cutout, at lunch,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I fell into the car business. I mean, and that, like I said, changed my entire life.
Yeah.
Over a cutout of an article for a management position. So I think just staying the course. If somebody doesn't have, an idea or a concept just yet, and you know what, if you're true to yourself and you keep looking, you'll find it.
Yeah, it'll naturally fall into place that way.
Right.
Yeah. And would you recommend people pay mentors, or just find a way to like just build a friendship with them to where it's more?
Well, I think if people don't have access to a strong person in a particular area, then it's reaching out to, maybe the UNOs of the world or Creighton, and finding who you can get in contact with, and giving that guidance. Mm-hmm. But if you are in a strong industry, car dealerships or restaurants or whatever, and people, I mean, like I said, it's okay to ask.
Yeah.
And, if somebody believes in you, I mean, maybe they want to be that mentor for you.
Right. Yeah, and I think that I'm a big believer in that. That sort of stuff falls into place after that.
Right.
You establish the conversation, let them know who you are, obviously show your interest and show that, like, look, I have a ton to learn. I know that. And let the cards fall. And then if that's not your, that's not your person, then that's not your person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a big believer in that as well. So, dude, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah,
I appreciate
it was fun.
Yeah.
Glad Robert could sit in.
Yeah, this is cool.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's good. One person enjoyed it. We got one. No. That's
All
great.
right.
That's great. No, that's gonna wrap it up for another episode of Spark to Fire, guys. I appreciate you guys listening to this show. Please leave a review on iTunes. That's how we make sure and get great people on the show, and how we get more visibility. I was searching Spark to Fire the other day, and it's actually getting easier to find on iTunes, and that's largely in part to the 53 people that have left 5-star reviews and written reviews. So please, or 53 ratings and 53 reviews. So please continue to leave those and keep striking.